Hi guys, my name's Ian and I'm the head coach at Tri Club, and today on the Sport and Mental Health YouTube series I'm speaking to Angus Greenwood, who is the head of Yonda Sports. So welcome, Angus.
Thanks, Ian. It's good to be here and nice to meet you.
And yourself as well. Now, when we get started, I'd just like people to introduce themselves a little bit. I know I've given you a bit of a brief introduction, but can you tell me who you are and a little bit about your time in sport and business, please?
Sure, Ian. I'm just basically an old git in sport, trying to be young again, I think. It's a long history because I'm old now. So, but my history of sport goes back a long time to my teens, or even before that, when I was a swimmer. I always seemed to just find it easy and beat other people without much training. So it was one of those natural things I was good at. So it's been there all my life, on and off. I've had breaks, and I think many people have breaks in sport. I've kind of combined that over the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years with a kind of my love of textiles and technical fabrics that I've kind of joined up with my business. And 6 years ago, I really started Yonda. I'd already was doing my own business and doing fabrics and technical fabrics for sport and developing things with other customers. And I noticed what was around the market and decided that I could do better. And being a swimmer, I could test them out. And so I got to work, and here we are, sort of another 5, 6 years later. And, we're developing some exciting suits and all flexible, good quality. So I kind of combined my love of sport and swimming especially. I sort of found triathlon probably about 10 years ago now. And it was one of those things that I've never biked before, never really run for fun, well, just for fun rather than for anything else. That was a huge learning curve, and something that was quite inspiring, especially when you get into your 40s. We all have a midlife crisis, all want to be 20 years younger. So I kind of joined the crowd, and here I am today, developing the brand. It's obviously difficult times at the moment, but we're positive, and we're looking ahead. And these things are sent to try us, I think. And who would have known sort of 4 or 5 months ago what would be happening now? And again, 4 or 5 months' time in the future, things may be different. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, most definitely. It's definitely a tough time, and thanks for the overview. It turns out, chatting to you before this particular recorded part, that we were both in Cozumel, similar to Yanis, who I spoke to. So how did you find it out in Cozumel, competing there at the World Champs?
Yeah, that was, I think, 2016, if I recall. And I've never been to such a hot, humid place in my life. And all I remember were Mexicans running past me and winning, and Europeans dropping like flies because of the heat. And it's funny, yeah, it's amazing how many people have been to Mexico. And I meet people nowadays who, like myself, who say that they were there, and Yanis, and but I only bumped into a few people when I was there. A guy who was a good friend of mine now, who's a coach and does training camps. We made some really good friends of people we met there. It was a great experience, and such a long way to travel there, wasn't it? And some mixed feelings about the results of what happened, but we all know what happened to the Brownlees, and the same happened to many of us as well, I think, same day.
Yeah, it was certainly hard. I definitely enjoyed the ice baths that they provided for us after. So as you know, this is a series on sport and mental health. And I just want to ask, during this time in the coronavirus, have you found that there's been some physical and mental barriers in terms of just living everyday life and doing business? And how have you overcome these?
Yeah, very much so. The barriers have been, certainly up there with everything else. And again, like I said before, we didn't know what was going to be happening 4 or 5 months ago. So it's really hit home, I think, this last few months about the you're suddenly on your own very much, and especially with a business such as ours. We're only small, we're only still young, and the complexities of wetsuits means that our buying has to be done so much further ahead For example, I have to place orders in August to have my wetsuits ready for the market by March the following year. So you can imagine the planning that goes, if I want to develop a new wetsuit, and the testing that goes on, we're looking at 1 or 2 years in advance. Plus, for example, this year, and I say to people, it was almost like being Father Christmas and having Christmas cancelled, because we were all ready. We'd done 6 months of PR, marketing, getting everything right, T's crossed, I's dotted. The suits came in on time, which is rare from China, and bang, it hit us literally the week that we were about to launch. The Tri show in London was cancelled, and everything fell to bits. And all of a sudden we were twiddling our fingers and thumbs saying, what now? People can't swim, so people won't buy wetsuits. You know, we were wondering what was going to happen, obviously, like everybody else. So, you know, I remember the first few weeks, a little bit lost, but you kind of just carried on adjusting and getting used to the kind of way of life that we're all getting used to. But over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, it's begun to be more of a plan of action ahead, and talking to other guys in the business. We've had conferences on Zoom with Outdoor Swimmer magazine and lots of people from the industry coming together and sort of saying, you know, what are we going to do to get this back again? What have we lost, and how can we get something out of this year? And that's happened, and it's great to work with people that, you know, we're all still singing from the same hymn sheet. And now, obviously, over the next day or so, it looks like some lakes may open. Hopefully, it's going to be done cautiously, because I still think it's a little bit too soon, and we need to, you know, walk before we can run. But the signs are good in that respect. I think that we can get, because swimming is very, very safe. It's obviously, you have to take into consideration the rescue team that may have to rescue you, people on the beach side or the lake side, lifeguards. So that has to be built in, and I think, you know, or I hope there's going to be some kind of national directive to look at how everybody does the same thing the same way, I think. And I should think that something like that might come out of it. But I think it's we're going to get a season. I think a lot of races are being cancelled already, and they won't happen. Maybe sort of September, October, if we get an extension to the season with the weather, if the weather's kind to us, hopefully we'll get something. But as far as our business is concerned, and people in the same boat as us, I think it's really a question of battening down the hatches, writing off this year in one way, really, and building for next year, and hanging on for this year as best we can. And I hope that next year racing happens again in a big way, and we can get back into it, and hopefully it may even attract more people into the sport, because whilst we've been on lockdowns and everything, people have been running and cycling more. Let's hope that they want to do some triathlon as well.
Yeah, hopefully. It's definitely something that's come up in a couple of interviews with Jez Cox, who I spoke to a few weeks back, and Iman Wilkerson as well, noticing that certain people in the community who wouldn't normally exercise are getting into that, and hopefully they can take an interest in swimming, cycling and running, and put business your way, and the other businesses as well that you're working alongside, and the various lakes and so on, that support the triathlon community and the open water swimming community. Now, obviously, you're the head of Yonda Sports. So what athletes do you work with at the moment? And can you tell me how are you diversifying at this time?
Well, this year, in terms of working with athletes, it's again gone to pot because the Olympics isn't going to happen. One of our main athletes is Pierre Lecour from France. Obviously, France have had a sort of a more different lockdown to us, and they're just coming out of it now. And they're hoping to get some races in, I think, from middle to end of August. Their Grand Prix season may take off and have 2 or 3 races. So that'll be good for them. And you know, Pierre's a great athlete, and hopefully he's got one more year left in him, because on his peak, potentially he could be top 5. Then there's other guys like Mark Devey, who's a Hungarian top swimmer. He's the one that he led out at Leeds last year or the year before. Only a young guy, 22, 23. He can beat Varga now, which is great. He loves the wetsuits. And then we have other guys like Bent Spixak, who's another Hungarian. He came third at Yokohama, I think, in the World Series last year. And he's one to watch for potentially next year now in Japan, because the same conditions in Yokohama is obviously, that's the same circuit as the Olympics. And he loves the heat, a flat circuit, young lad, and he could do very well. So he could be a dark horse. So we're hopeful for a good showing there with a Yonda wetsuit. Well, obviously it won't be a wetsuit, but one of our Yonda guys. Then we have all sorts of other guys that we work with, from French Grand Prix teams to a few clubs in the UK. Obviously the like of Yanis as well, who we're now working with, and it's great to have Yanis, who's an age group of which is you know, it's important to us to have not just the elites, but you know, solid age groupers who have a past like myself, who have come from nowhere, were maybe a good swimmer or a good runner, didn't know it as such, and suddenly found out they could bike a little bit, and he's the kind of person that we love having on board, and he certainly appreciates the gear that we provided. So good luck, Yanis, on next year it'll be now. But you know, we also help as best we can a lot of academy kids. So they range from about 15 to 17, 18, and they're the youngsters of the future, you know, future talent. And we work with a lot of academies, and we try and help the parents out with a decent price wetsuit. And I know a lot of Yonda suits are now worn by academy students. So, you know, we try and cover everything from younger to old. And we have plenty of people who are old Ironman like myself. I've not been to Kona, unfortunately, but I know a few have. So yeah, we keep the spread quite broad, and we can't afford as a small brand to attract the really huge names, but we look for younger people and younger talent who are coming through, maybe one day, maybe up there as well.
Fantastic. Sounds like you're getting a few orders through over email as well. During these times, have you got any top tips for people who are in business and sport to stay physically and mentally well? Like, what have you been doing yourself?
Yeah, I mean, for me, physically, it has given me a chance to do something regular, which, again, I used to do many years ago when I was age grouping. But the last 2-3 years have been very difficult because the business has taken off, and it's you know, I've not had any continuation of training. It's been 2 hours one week, 1 hour the next, grabbing it when you can. So one good thing about this shutdown, lockdown, has been, you know, I've literally set myself a goal of doing something every day, whether it be a 3K walk, 18K run, which I eventually built up to, or a bike ride on my turbo, or outside for half an hour or something. And I've done that. I did, I think, 51 days in a row. I did something.
Wow, that's incredible.
It wasn't a question of, you know, anything too, you know, major. It was just to know that I could get out and do something, which is, you know, just nice to see. Certainly as an athlete, and many people will appreciate that it's that continuity that's important, and that's good for your mental well-being. And I don't know like you, but if I don't train for 3-4 days, I become very bad-tempered. So, so mentally, I need to do something. So thanks to COVID, in a way, that's given me that opportunity, and to kind of appreciate that I can get back to some kind of fitness and lose a couple of pounds at the same time. So I think that's important, and I think you know, I think a question of, we're looking ahead now, I think, and the weather's been very kind to us. I'm hopeful that we get a long summer. So I think we just all need to hang on to those positives that, you know, with the global warming that we have had some great summers recently. And I think, you know, people are hanging on there, and, you know, we're all in it together. And I don't think the love of the sport and outdoor swimming or triathlon is going to diminish. I think it's going to get stronger.
Yeah.
So that's key. That's what we're all hanging on to.
Yeah. No, that's really positive, and obviously it is really important to maintain consistency with exercise, and to maybe vary it up a bit, like you're saying, you're doing walking, a bit of running, a bit of cycling, and just mixing it up, and hopefully we can get out to the lakes and do some swimming as well, and maybe try out a Yonda wetsuit in the process. Now, where can people follow the Yonda journey? Tell us your social media handles and your web address. Where can we go and buy your kit?
Yeah, well, we have a website, which is yondasports.com. We've grown that over the last few years, and there's now probably something for everybody in terms of wetsuit pricing. We're very approachable. If you want to know what size you are, if you've got any questions about anything to do with wetsuits or anything like that, we can help out with that, and we'd love to give advice, and so I can look at somebody and say, or tell me your details, and I'll tell you what size you are. Looking at yourself in, I think you're a small tall actually, so might be wrong there. But
yeah, 5'7", 65 kilos. Those are my stats at the minute.
There you are then. So yeah, you're small tall.
There you go.
Instagram and Twitter are at Yonda Sports, all one word, and that's it. We're quite sort of we're regularly posting up on Yonda Sports on Instagram, and we kind of built a nice steady following on there, and we're trying to be informative, and it's going well on there. So yeah, we love to see people, and we love people to tag us in and share things that they're doing as well.
That's really positive. Thank you very much for sharing those. Now, in terms of going off, kind of a little bit off piste, I've not given you this question prior to the interview. What would you say is probably your top wetsuit and top tri suit that you've got on offer? What's worth investing in? If I'm a triathlete and I'm looking to take my performance to the next level, what should I be buying off of you?
It varies really, obviously a budget, but the wetsuits that I build are all based on the same template. So I only adjust the neoprene grading in terms of the price. So basically, if you're going to buy one of our budget end wetsuits, you're still going to get the flexibility, but you perhaps won't get the speed as if you would on our top end. So the main suit that we seem to be now famous for is the Ghost, which has had that was best on test last year in 220 magazine, which I'm very proud about because we're only a small brand and rubbing shoulders with big guys.
Yeah, well done.
So we know basically you put that on and you're laughing. The flexibility is unparalleled, really. I build the suits as strongly as I can and use the best materials because I don't believe in giving something a great looking suit and a fast suit and it falls to bits after a few wears.
Yeah, that's good to know.
So I'm always looking to find a suit that is not only the fastest and the most flexible, but also the strongest. And to get all those three is quite difficult. But on this year's suits, the 2020 suits, we're very close to being unparalleled and not being, unbeatable on those really. We have new fabrics that are quite tear resistant, and I mean you could get a pair of scissors and cut them, but many people neoprene find them very easy to tear, and so that's something I've been looking at to try and help people not do. At the same time, even our budget suit, you want to be able to stand in your wetsuit and put both your hands up into the air and not feel anything pulling you down. And I'm glad to say that if it's the right fit, which is also key, we can achieve that with most people. So I'm very proud of the suits, and we'll just carry on, hopefully, growing with those and getting better and better. Great.
So when I go and tackle an Ironman at some point, then it will be the Yonda Ghost, or is it the new one coming out in 2020?
Well, there's the Ghost is there, and the 2020 version. The Spirit is below that one is still a great suit. It doesn't have quite the same neoprene as the top suit, but it's the same kind of fit and build. That's a fast suit, and that's more for the sort of the middle of the road kind of price. I mean, listen, I would do, even on our budget end spook wetsuits, I would do an Ironman in that, and I think I'd do a lot better than most other suits, because it's all about flexibility. And if you've got that, then you can do a stroke that that you can do in a swimming pool without a wetsuit. That's all about efficiency. So if you've got a decent stroke, then, you know, with a decent wetsuit with flexibility, you can then transverse it to that. And I've had many people who've, you know, not just 2 or 3 minutes off an Ironman time, but 7 or 8 minutes.
Wow.
By just being able to swim effectively and efficiently. And that's to do, people say, oh, the wetsuit's fast. But I say it's not actually the wetsuit's allowing you to swim to your best, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. No, that's really helpful. And thanks for the breakdown on the different suits. Now, you do tri-suits as well. So what would you advise there? Same sort of question, trying to take my performance to the next level. What should I use?
Tri-suits is a different one because you're looking at depending on what event you're going to do, and if you're wanting comfort or you're wanting compression. So if you're going to do a short 5K, well, you know, a sprint distance or even a Olympic distance.
Yeah.
We have our tri-suits online, which are all Italian fabric with 30% lycra in them, and that gives you great compression and they don't go baggy. They're really super fast in water in a non-wetsuit swim. But you won't want to wear one on an Ironman for 12, 13, 14 hours. So when we have a sleeved wetsuit, which is less compression, more comfort. But again, we always use Italian fabrics because I've been in textiles 30 odd years now, and they are still the best in manufacturing fabrics for sport. So yeah, and again, it's all about the quality there. You can get much cheaper garments, but they go baggy, they rub, they feel coarse, and they don't give you any speed or and if you're going to be doing a long distance, you know, 12, 13 hour Ironman or longer, you want comfort especially. So we offer something for everybody, including 2-piece tri-suits as well. So it just depends what you want really. And again, if you need to ask, just ask and we'll help you out.
That's brilliant. No, thanks very much. And thanks for joining me today, Angus. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do that.
No problem, Ian. Good speaking to you, and look forward to seeing you maybe at an event another day, perhaps not Mexico.
Yeah, and hopefully in a Yonda suit as well. Now, thanks for joining us, guys. That's all for now. Coming up, we've got some more interviews, so do stay tuned. Thanks very much for joining us again, and take care.